Welcome to Beatsource Tech. My name is Mojaxx and today we are looking at the worst kept secret in the DJ equipment world this year. Yes, it's the Rane PERFORMER. Sometimes it seems like in music, the parent company of Denon DJ, Newmark and Rane can't ever seem to get things quite right when it comes to their marketing. The PERFORMER made its public debut at the Superbowl of all places. An early unit, already custom skinned by 12-inch skins, was used by DJ Iz Avila on stage with Usher during the halftime show. An incredible marketing baller move. That, however, was 4 months ago. The original plan was to launch in early May, but the date was put back some time ago. I believe that was so Rane could make sure there was enough stock on retailers' shelves to satisfy demand. And that is an admirable ambition. It can be frustrating for end users when an exciting new product launches and they can't buy one. But that delay has meant that Rane have basically suppressed their own 4 sales for months, which is pretty wild. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted that the PERFORMER is in many ways the same as the Rane 4 apart from the Platters. There are other differences, but the hardware is on the whole very similar indeed. And the thing is, spoilers, I really love the PERFORMER. Of the two, it's absolutely the one I prefer. But I also think that there are many DJs for whom the 4 might actually be the better choice, and I'll explain the reasons why that is later on. On the other hand, there's one thing which you as viewers gain from this delay. I and all the other reviewers you'll see posting about this today have had units in hand for months. There is no first look stuff here. I've spent hours and hours using the PERFORMER, I've done numerous gigs with it, and so this is pretty much a long-term review at this stage, even though it's just launched. Let's talk about pricing first of all. The 4 has seen a price decrease since launch. It dropped from $1,700 in the US to $1,500. The PERFORMER is set to have a street price of $2,000, and that makes sense to me as the build cost must be much higher with 2 motorized platters. For further context, that $2,000 price puts it directly in line with the DDJ Rev 7 from Pioneer DJ, that company's spinning platter offering. It's certainly up there in the top echelons of controller pricing. To spend any more, you have to go with a device which also does standalone playback, but as I say, in context, I think the pricing is fair. We'll get the basics out of the way. The PERFORMER is a 4-channel 4-deck controller which unlocks the full version of Serato DJ Pro. Like the 4, I suspect that virtual DJ support will come very soon. In terms of build quality, it is identical to the 4, all metal construction with an incredibly solid and chunky feel to everything, just like all of Rane's other products. And the sound is great too, with Cirrus Logic 24-bit 48kHz converters and 32-bit floating point digital processing. I ran it through some audio analysis software, and overall the audio has a pretty flat profile and is very clean with minimal distortion. The phono preamps haven't been scrimped on either, and so whilst I'm not sure many people are using turntables alongside a massive device like this, they won't be disappointed if they do. Connectivity is on point. There are 2 mic inputs, both with XLR and jack combo sockets on the rear. Mic 1 is controlled via the top panel. There's an on-off button with talk over on shift, 2-band EQ and an echo, the feedback level of which can be adjusted in settings. Mic 2 on the front is a little more simple, with an on-off switch, 2-band EQ and a level control. There are plenty of routing options for both mics which will help in different situations like streaming and recording, and I'm very happy with the quality of the mic preamps. Queuing is fully comprehensive. Each channel has a Q button, then on the front there is a level control, Q master blend knob and a hardware split Q switch. There's nothing more I could ask for. Oh, and there's a dedicated sampler level control, or you can assign that to channel 4. Good stuff. In terms of other inputs, channels 3 and 4, the 2 on the outside, have switchable line and phono inputs on RCAs which can be routed to Serato for DVS use, and the outputs are club standard with master out on XLRs and RCAs, and there's a booth output on balanced jacks with its own level control. I always appreciate a hardware mono stereo switch as found here. In some setups it will be needed, and it's convenient to just have it there on the device. There are 2 USB-B ports for connecting to computers, and the power supply is internal with an IEC connector, always my preference. Rane have clearly had to beef the power supply up for the spinning platters over the one in the 4, as it has a fan exhaust port next to it on the PERFORMER and it draws a lot more power. We'll get to those platters now then, as I know that's what most of you have been waiting for. Look, cards on the table, they are kind of familiar. Rane and the other in-music brands have been on the spinning platter thing for many years. They were a real innovator in that area, but there's no getting away from the fact that the PERFORMER jogs are inspired by the Rev 7. They have much more in common with that when it comes to their design than they do with, say, the Rane 1. Now, I can imagine Pioneer DJ might feel a little bit irked by this, but as a DJ, I'm not complaining at all. The Rev 7 jogs are awesome and, well, so are these. They're built around high-torque aluminium platters with the strobe dots on the side like a traditional DJ turntable. The centres are not present though, as the screens sit in the middle and the custom-made acrylic discs clamp magnetically into place on top. Because of that design, you can't use regular slip mats, but the Performer comes with a few sets of different slip sheets made of fabric or plastic, so you can fine-tune the resistance to your own personal taste, and you can use 2 on each deck to really customise that feel precisely. How are the platters to use? Simply fantastic. Once you get your head around the slight change in physicality, there's no central spindle getting in the way, they really do feel a lot like playing with actual vinyl. Some users will bemoan the fact they're only 7 inches in diameter, but as a 45 head I love that size, and it's simply the case that going any bigger would make this already large device unfeasibly huge for most uses. Scratching on them feels great and there's no noticeable sticker drift at all. I did experience a little drift after a while when doing my basic level beat juggles, but that was something which improved during testing with each new beta build of Serato DJ Pro, and so I assume that's mostly a software problem and will be ironed out even more over time. You do have the option to display a virtual cue marker on the screens, but I prefer to have a physical one on the platters, so I added some stickers. As always, I really appreciate that Rane have put markers on the faceplate at 12 o'clock and at roughly 2 o'clock, approximating the location of the needle on a record, so turntablists who cue to the needle will be happy. Speaking of those displays, you'll see more of them in the demo portion, but I do want to note some other things. They are bigger than those on the 4, and so you get a more detailed waveform view, plus the ability to browse your library, which is awesome for avoiding the dreaded Serato face. You can even switch the displays to day mode if you're performing outside or in a really bright environment for a more high contrast look. They aren't the only displays either. As found on the 4, there is a small OLED display for the FX and settings, of which there are many to dig into, and 2 larger ones above each set of pads, and those are a real highlight, showing cue point times or names and the parameters for each pad mode. Being OLED, they're always crystal clear, and they're a feature I miss on other Serato hardware. Let's talk about the faders. Like the 4, the Performer has a Mag 4 crossfader, which was a big step up from the older Mag 3, and is an excellent fader all round, being durable and precise. But the Performer gains an external tension adjustment dial, which is a definite upgrade. On the 4, you had to take off the faceplate to adjust that. Another thing that's seen an upgrade is the up faders. Whilst the up faders on the 4 were fine, they were also nothing special. But on the Performer you have what Rane are calling precision feel faders. These use the same dual rail mechanical system as the Mag 4, but in a horizontal fader which is mounted vertically on the circuit board. This means that by removing the top plate, you can adjust the tension on those individually, and the curve and reverse can be tweaked in the options menu. I think this is a very smart upgrade. They're definitely superior to the up faders on the 4, and as the spinning platters on the Performer will make it appeal more to turntablists, having more advanced up faders is a sensible decision. So let's talk you through the features and functions here on the Performer. There is an awful lot to get to. Now, if there's anything I miss, maybe go back and watch my review of the Rane 4, because much of it is the same. A lot of features on here are basically identical, so if there's anything I miss, yeah, you can just refer back to that one, but I'll try and get through everything in one hit. We'll start with the deck sections. Obviously we have these displays, as you can see, really clear, prominent waveform in the middle, the overview waveform on the left, the waveform for the other deck next to it. We have beat jump length at the top, loop length at the bottom, key, the remaining time, BPM, pitch range and the amount of pitch up or down. So plenty of information on there. Coming down to the bottom we have a cue button and the start stop. And it is like instant start. There's no spin up, which is great. But that does make me kind of maybe want to use the cue button and the play pause sometimes, and so therefore, like on the 4, I do kind of wish the Q button was a bit bigger. We don't need the sync button to be this big. I do use sync quite a lot, but we don't need it to be that big. I'd rather the Q button was larger instead, but it works fine. It's there. It's a nice wide button at least. Then we have the shift button. We have the performance pads. So we have hot Q. Double tap puts us in pitch play. You can adjust the parameters for that. And again, you'll notice straight away, we've got these displays here. I will have shot some B-roll with them close up and they are just awesome. Like, it's amazing to be able to see what's going on. Go back to hotkey. If you've got names for your cues, you can see the names in those displays as well. It's fantastic. Then we've got the roll mode. Again, adjust the parameter. I have beat jump enabled in Serato to be at the bottom, so I can beat jump with the bottom 4, and it will show you that as well. So on those displays, it tells you what's going on. Double tap, we've got save loops. Then we have sampler. Double tap is scratch bank. Stems mode, so if you like to work with stems in the now traditional Serato way of having the 8 pads or the 4 pads on top for the soloing and the effects at the bottom, then you can work in that way. There's so many ways to work with stems here on the Performer. And then double tap that, we've got a slicer. So yeah, nice comprehensive pad modes, love it, all feel great as well, really nice, responsive, proper pads. Zero complaints from me. Then we have the loop control, so we have loop on and off and halve or double, so we can see on the screen in the deck, we can see the loop length. So there's a 4 beat, 2 beat. Hold shift, you can get reloop and set a manual loop as well. Next to that we have the stems controls. So instant a cappella or instant instrumental. And if you hold shift, you can also get the stem effects versions of that as well. Up above we have key adjust, in conjunction with obviously pitch and time in Serato DJ Pro. Hold shift to either do key sync or reset. Pitch bend buttons, which I absolutely love. You can of course pitch bend by using the platter, but I much prefer using the pitch bend buttons for that. Up above we have the pitch control itself. Nice and accurate, long throw pitch fader. Not too much of a dead zone around 0. Little bit of one, it just kind of clicks gently into place. But I found that perfectly workable in testing. Then we got key lock on or off with shift, or the range for the pitch. The 4 deck controls, so we can go from deck 1 to deck 3 on this side, 2 to 4 on this side. And the stem split stuff, which we'll get into in a minute. There's the stem split button above. Then we have the scroll and load button, push down to load, double tap to instant double, the back button. Then we've got sensor or silent Q. Right now it's set to sensor. Typically I'll have that set to silent Q because I love silent Q. Hold shift to go to reverse as well. We have slip mode or motor off. So hold shift, motor off. So if you prefer the static joggle wheel way of working, you don't have to have them spinning. I'm not sure why you'd buy this version if it was yours, but yeah. The option is there if you want it. Then we have beat jump control, so dedicated beat jump controls as well, so we can adjust the length and that will show up on the screen. Easy beat jump through. And the adjustable stop time from a rather overly aggressive 0 position right up to a really, really slow stop. Good stuff. Also on shift down here we have 33 and 45, so we can switch to 45 RPM, and then we'll need to change that in Serato as well. So if we go into the virtual deck speed, so if you are a 7-inch vinyl DJ and you're used to 45s, you want it on 45, you can do that, but because it's on shift, there's no way of accidentally switching over to 45, because normally that's the pitch bend button. So that's your deck sections kind of covered. Moving on to the mixer section, we have obviously our 4 channel faders, crossfader, assignable on the front. We've got the EQs, so low, mid and high with the trim control up above. Full kill. Below that we have the channel effects, so we've got filter and the light flashes to show you it's on. The resonance for that is adjustable in the settings. Filter roll. Noise. So you can do your James Hype kind of business, and the flanger as well. In terms of other mixer controls, we have obviously the mic up here. I'm using the mic right now. Nice preamps in these. You've got on-off button, the effects, which in this case is an echo. So nice, all good there. With a high and low EQ for the mic as well. Plenty of headroom on there. Then you can switch between USB A and USB B on both sides, so you can do both, you know, one side at a time. And then we can switch between USB and line or phono on decks 3 and 4. So that's currently set to line on deck 4. That is actually switched to phono on the back, so that is a turntable input right now. Then we come down to the main effects. Switch between the hardware and software effects. Now, software effects might be a bit more interesting now because Serato has better effects in there in the new version, but not in the version that I'm using with this. It's a different beta version I'm using with this right now. So we've got echo. We can adjust the high pass on the echo. It's post fader, post crossfader. You can assign it to deck 1 or deck 3. One thing to note, the lights on the back of these paddles, they don't actually flash in real life. I think the camera refresh rate is making them flash on the camera. They only flash when they're active in real life. Then we got recycler. Love that one. Scale down. You can change the scale, and you can change the beat of it. Reverb. Again, we can adjust the high pass. Very nice, clean reverb. I would prefer a little bit more depth when it's at 12 o'clock on the reverb. But yeah, very clean, and obviously you can turn up the depth. Then we've got Matrix. Really messes it up in a very pleasing way. And echo out. So that doesn't echo out without needing to drop the fader. Then of course there are more. So let's choose some different effects. So we hold down the effect itself. And then we can turn the dial and choose. So what haven't we had here? Hold echo we can choose. So just push the parameter button in. So now that's kind of more of a looping echo. Again, let's choose a different one. Mute. So that's like a transform button. There's phaser in there as well. Pitch down. Which is different from scale down. Love it. Absolutely love it. Pumper. Like a kind of a side chain kind of thing. Recycler. We've had. Rider. Scaling up or down. They're really taking advantage of these scaling effects in there. Riser, so it goes up. Roll. Scale down we've had. Stutter out is a great one. You can choose the length and you can choose the pattern. Really fun effect. Fader filter. Change the type. High pass or low pass. Dirty. Fader pitch. Turn it on. One for the turntablist maybe, not really one for me. Fader ring. So these are like the ones on the A-track mixer. Obviously you'll notice now this fader's not doing anything because it's only for the effect. Fader roll. Fader tone. All effects that I probably won't use very much, but they're very cool. So yeah, a fantastic suite of effects on here overall. Just cannot complain really about all of them. They are really fun. Oh, there's chopper as well. There's even more in there I've missed. Chopper is a new one. So you can use that for like cutting, extra cuts, etc. Is there any more I've missed? Oh, break, bit, crush, beat. There's loads. There's just loads. Backspin. Cyclone. Like, honestly, a fantastic suite of effects. It really, really is. Easy to control. Assignable on both sides. You can't do both decks at once on each side. You can only do one or the other. But yeah, superb stuff. Let's talk then about stem split. If you're familiar with the Rane 4, you'll be aware of this, but this is how this works. So throw both faders up on the left hand side, and I'm going to hit the stem split. So now the vocal is on number 1, the instrumental is on number 2. Dirty. So we're going to control deck 1. Now I could switch over to 3 and take it out of stems mode and put it back into normal. So yeah, it's a really cool feature. If you like to mess with stems, so the stem split again. Now we're back to where we were.
Got my stomach kicks, stomach kicks, stomach, 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 stomach kicks, stomach kicks, stomach, 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 stomach kicks on.
So it only comes out of dual deck mode when you hit one of the decks.
Vision's getting blurry. Got my stomach,
Can take a little minute to get your head around how it all works, but once you do,
about to get dirty.
So now I've moved it all over to deck 3. It's all playing as normal. I could load something else up on deck 1. We can have 2 other things going on over here, or stem split over here as well. So much power to this. Now the other new thing, which has also now come to the Rane 4, but it is on here, is the stem level EQ. So all we do, hold shift and press the Q button for the deck that you want to enable it for. And then we have drums, melody and bass on the mid, and the vocal on the top.
Stomach kicks on, they about to get dirty. Got my stomach kicks on.
So it enables you to cut those and boost them as well. So that's the one advantage that the stem EQ setup has, is that you can boost as well. So there's so many ways to work with stems on here, as there were with the 4, and the 4, as I say, has this mode as well now. Now the only thing is, you can hear this one is still on normal because I didn't do shift and the Q. You see when I hold shift, this one's flashing, this one is not. So that's the only thing I would point out to you is, you know, be aware of what's happening, because you could easily forget, oh, this one is on stems mode, this one is not. I would generally suggest, from my experience using this at gigs, I would generally suggest set them all or nothing. So when you go in, just do them all, or don't do them at all. You know, because like this one's on line mode right now. But yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense. But it's just easy to get confused. So now this one is in stems mode. So unless you're really on point and really switched on and know what you're doing, maybe switch them all at once. But you know, it's the option's there to do whatever you want, basically. So yeah, I think that's everything. I think I've remembered everything on here. As you can see, just like the 4, super comprehensive, super powerful, full 4-deck control. You know, can switch to deck 1 over here, load another song and use it like a normal 4-deck device. I can utilise the stem split. And all of that combined with these fantastic new jog wheels. Yeah, this thing is it's kind of a winner. As you can probably tell, I really like the Performer, but I do want to circle back to what I said at the start of this video about how maybe some DJs will be better served by the 4 instead, because I do think that's true. So here are the points I'd suggest you look at if you're unsure about which of the 2 will be best for you. Firstly, portability. Both units are basically the same large size and look equally impressive. The Performer has an extra bit sticking out of the front for the crossfader tension adjust, which means they can't use the same deck saver, but nearly all hard and soft cases for one will fit the other. But those spinning platters bring with them a serious weight penalty. At £28 versus £18 for the 4, the Performer is almost 50% heavier. For many, that won't be an issue, but if you regularly have to, say, walk half a mile from your car to your bar gig with your controller, that's a big difference. Then there is the whole spinning platter thing itself. I adore them, but let's be honest, turntables haven't been even approaching the standard on DJ gear for many years. Most venues have switched to static platter media players a long time ago. So if you aren't really committed to that vinyl feel, then the platters on the 4 are great, and perhaps saving $500 and a ton of weight might make that a more attractive proposition. There are a few other extras you get with the Performer, like some extra effects, but the STEM EQ mode just came to the 4 with a firmware upgrade, so you aren't missing that much. So no, the Performer might not be the one for everyone, and I'm still glad the 4 exists as an alternative, but it is absolutely the one for me. Like the 4, it has fantastic build quality, great sound, tons of options for working with stems, and awesome hardware effects, but it's topped off with those incredible spinning platters. I'm hoping that Rane don't ask for it back for a good while, because it's definitely coming out to lots more of my gigs with me this summer. I've even had Jared from 12-inch Skins knock me up a skin for it already, as he's very much part of the Performer's story, and I'm looking forward to being part of that story too. It's a very special piece of kit indeed. So there you go, my thoughts on the Performer from Rane. Putting aside the marketing snafus and the comparisons with the 4, and just looking at it in isolation, this is a truly killer device. It has rock solid build quality, great sound, creative features for days, and those platters, while they may not be the most original design ever, are just awesome. The Performer definitely doesn't supersede the 4, I see them both as complementary to each other, and indeed there are still a few reasons why you might want to consider the 4 instead, depending on your needs. But for me, this ticks all the boxes in terms of feel and performance, and it earns my highest possible recommendation. Obviously, it's a weird time for the Serato ecosystem right now, with the proposed acquisition of Serato by Alpha Theta still being up in the air, but I think the Performer is a perfect representation of why that ecosystem does need to remain open and diverse going forward. There are lots of Rane fans who love this exact type of hardware, and they're never going to want to switch to Pioneer DJ. They love that Rane feel and style. So I hope that one way or another, the relationship between Rane and Serato can continue to remain close, because when it bears fruit like this, the whole DJ scene is better off. In the comments, let us know what you think of the Performer. Are you a Rane fan who has been waiting eagerly for it to finally release, or are you new to Rane and think this might be the device to make you switch? And if you own the Rane 4, are you glad you jumped in when you did, or do you wish you'd held off for the Performer instead? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching this episode of Beatsource Tech. I do hope you've enjoyed it or found it useful. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel and you turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. I'll see you next time.